I'm surprised that we got a hearing on the Senate side, it's the same people.
All right.
Same lady that last year.
All right, folks.
Or maybe someone got into it.
Welcome to everybody. I'm really excited that you guys are here. I see quite a lot of first timers to one of these, so that's great. I really appreciate it. Those who've been before, I appreciate you coming and continuing going. As you probably know, I'm Al Merkel, your Spokane Valley City Councilman. I have been on the council since January of last year, elected in 2023. So today, I'm kind of presenting a review of last year, what happened, voting records, my record for your guys' evaluation, and of course, taking questions. Okay, so kind of what I just said, review of 2024, we're going to look directly at voting records for myself and some of the other council members, and then I want to talk to you guys about 2025, and I think that that's the most important piece of this conversation. All right, so 2024, we did have some highlights in the city. I am most proud of getting our 10 extra officers, which is a huge, thank you, I appreciate that.
Good start.
And that was incredibly difficult. Welcome. If you sign in, that would be great. It was incredibly difficult. From day one, there was a lot of pushback. So for about 6 council meetings, I made some pretty serious council speeches about how important this was. And just to put it in perspective, since 2008 up until January of last year, Spokane Valley hadn't added a single officer. So in that span of time, our city went from 60,000 people to 120,000 people. And we didn't add not one single officer.
Shame on all of them.
Right? It was terrible. I directly went on some ride-alongs with the police service during my first month on council to really see what the problem was. And it was immediately clear. We did get into a high-speed car chase. It took 6 officers to take that person down. You have one in the back, one in the front, one coming from below, one coming from the left, and then a couple coming from the sides to make sure that they couldn't get away. You know how many officers were on duty that night? 6. That's right.
Yep.
All 6 of them. So for about 20 or 30 minutes that we were doing this, if your house would have been broken into, if your car would have been stolen, if somebody decided to rob a bank, somebody, God forbid, would have been murdered. Sorry, so that was a big problem. Yeah, John.
Is it okay to ask questions while you're, because I'll forget them if you don't.
That's fair enough. You can shoot them at me. I might hold them off until the end because we want to try and get through this.
Here's my concern with all our different first responders. Did we get any backups from the county?
We do get backups from the county. In that particular case, we actually got 1 extra officer from the county who came as backup. We also sometimes get backups from the city, but we can't count on those, right? If the county is having an issue, there's no backup. If the city is having an issue, there's no backup. We need our first line officers to be ready and able to respond to situations by ourselves. That's the point of having a city. So I was really proud that we added 10. And just to be clear, 10 was as much as we could have added. So that strained the recruitment ability of the police department. It's not easy to add officers. It's not easy to hire officers. It's not easy to train officers. Even though most of these were actually transfers, so they were experienced officers who have been added in, it's still quite the process.
How many total officers does the valley have?
So total, it's a little bit hard to give you like a straight number because some of our officers are shared. In other words, like we have detectives who, for instance, are what do they call it? Major crimes detectives. So they would focus on murders and things like that. We share him with the county about 50% of the time. So in terms of, if you think about it as there's a term that they use in the city a lot for
FTE.
FTE. Yeah. If you think about it as FTE, we have about 100.
Yeah.
But if you think about it as raw police strength, we have about 145. Okay? So just to put that in perspective, the city of Spokane is exactly twice our size now. And they have like 350 to 400. So in other words, they've got about 25% more officers than we do. And have you guys heard how often they're complaining about not having enough officers?
Yeah.
So we're even worse. Okay, so that was quite the process to get that 10. The chief committed to me that he could get 10. We organized for 10. The council also agreed that we would do 10 each year through 2026 because we found we're about 30 short, right? And that's just to break even. That's not to where we're going to be more safe than we were before. That's just to basically make the minimums. So they promised that we were going to do that, but as you'll find out later, we didn't keep that commitment. Another thing that was really important when I polled Valley residents about what are things that are important to you that I should focus on was affirming our commitment to dams here in the Pacific Northwest and natural gas. And thankfully, we really did do that at Spokane Valley. Appreciate it. Okay, the next one is, of course, the drug crisis that we're facing. And let me tell you, that crisis has supercharged since November. Every other state and county in the nation has seen a decrease in fentanyl. Washington State has seen an increase. And the chief county of increase in Washington State is Spokane. That's right. So this is incredibly difficult. This is incredibly bad. We have been getting, so there were opiate settlements from Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and all these different companies. We've been getting this money, and the Valley has done nothing with it for a couple of years. But I was able to work really hard to get that money committed to some really important opiate programs that I'll talk to you guys about a little bit later. I also, surprisingly, got agreement from the majority of the council, not all of them, but the majority of the council, to try and make drug possession a felony here in Spokane Valley. We're still working on this because there's a lot of legal wrangling that we have to go through, but we do have agreement that that is the end goal.
Is that, Al, is that gonna be through a state RCW, or are they going to be?
We're doing it on our own. We're trying to do it.
Pass an ordinance to make something a felony at the Valley.
We're gonna try. I got the majority of the council to approve trying. You're right. That is, you bring up the same concerns the city manager and others brought up.
Well, the thing is a municipality can have, they can adopt up to a gross misdemeanor, they can do that, but as far as felonies, that's gotta be controlled by the state and the state RCW.
I disagree. I think that we have preeminence of cities here, but what you're bringing up is the point that the city manager brought up and also the state has brought up. So you're not coming from someplace strange.
Yeah.
I just, we live in a time where people take legal theories and they act like they are rules.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's not how things work, right? Ultimately, sometimes things need to be tested, and this is one where we're pushing on. Another great success was making Spokane Valley a Purple Heart City, respecting our veterans. Not that it really did much, we're gonna put up some signs and things like that, but whatever we can do, to me that's very important. That was one I directly brought up. We also added some requirements to contracting, kind of not very much, but at least we've done some movement in that direction, which was one of the big things that I was working on. And we fully funded the cross-country course, which I think were great successes. So, some mid-lights, so this is kind of like, yeah, it's good. Like, we're looking at public safety cameras. The vast majority of the council is still uneasy about that, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit about that later, but I think that this could really make a difference. These cameras are a fixed cost, unlike an officer, right? So it's like a one-time purchase, especially speed cameras of that nature, because they pay for themselves, and they really, help make the community safer. So this is something that I'm going to be working on hard. We also had the grants pass decision overturned. If you guys aren't familiar, that was a Court of Appeals decision that essentially limited our ability to enforce homelessness rules. But now we can. So I think that was pretty good news for the city. But unfortunately, there's some lowlights. A lot of tax money got wasted. Chief amongst that is the Sprague Road diet, which you guys all drove through to get here. I'm sure maybe some of you guys really appreciated not having those extra lanes. I'm not one of those people. I think that the amount of money that was spent on this project was a total waste. The citizens spoke on this. 70% of you said that you were against this project. I had over 150 comments come into Spokane Valley Council to talk against this project. And the council said, you know what, we're going to do it anyway. So, unbelievable waste of money. We also had the Circle of Death on 16th. How many of you guys have driven through the traffic circle? Everybody love it? Isn't it great? You just gotta dodge, right? You just gotta dip and dodge as you're going through there. Yeah.
And since, we've all talked about the Circle of Death, but while you're all driving through it or whatever, if you live out here in Drive Valley, the new paving job is a piece of garbage. It has got more ripples in it. It makes a nice smooth riding car go rumble all the way down.
Right.
And it's hard to believe that you pay full bore street price for paving.
And that's a problem with our performance management. That's a contract.
Yeah, it comes out absolutely worse than an old road right next to it.
We've also committed to countless of these empty grant commitments for albatross projects, like the ones that are coming up this year. We're going to do super sidewalks over here on Argonne. So right now, as you guys know, the northern part of Argonne with all the restaurants and the shopping has sidewalks the whole way through, 6-foot sidewalks. Well, we are going to get rid of those and make them 8-foot sidewalks.
Oh, come on.
It's only $10 million.
When did we last do that?
I think those sidewalks were put in probably 20 years ago, probably when the railroad, but I mean, the sidewalks are not in bad shape. This is just
They're
because
just
of brakes.
dangerous.
Okay, yes.
I just have a question about that. Are they still closing the swimming pools for our youth?
They've
No,
never
thankfully,
said they
no.
would.
And excuse me, you can join, but don't
I
speak
am
openly.
trying, here I am.
Okay.
Well, you're not gonna stand over there and be a heckler the whole time,
Yeah.
because we're not interested in that.
Take a
And
seat.
we
How
are
about
people.
the truth?
No.
You
Who are
deserve it.
you?
I don't know.
This is Councilman Tim Hattenberg's wife.
Oh.
Okay. All right. So, no, thankfully, the swimming pools stayed open.
They have
We're
never
glad about
said
that.
they were gonna
Go
close
away.
it.
No, listen to him.
I'm sorry, how would you say?
I said thankfully we reversed course on the swimming pools last year. I think that there was enough community outrage from me bringing it up and talking about it that they said, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't do that." Yeah, I think that truly they were never going to close the swimming pools, but I think what they were going to do is hold it over everybody like a sword of Damocles to say, if we can't raise your taxes, we're going to close these pools.
Oh, they've never done that before.
So thankfully we fought against that.
Thank you.
All right. Also, we really don't have a comprehensive plan for homelessness. There was supposedly a comprehensive plan for homelessness passed in 2023. If you read through it, it's just a lot of vagary stuff. Have you guys read some of these plans before where they say, like, we're going to help people find homes, and we're going to be real friendly with them, and they're going to have nice lives? But you ask, well, how are you going to do any of those things? We'll figure out those details later. What's the point of doing the plan, right?
Has anybody, any city, county, come up with any real solution?
I think yes.
Okay.
Bexar County is doing well. That's
Where?
the model that I tried to kind of propose for
Where's
us
that
over
at?
here.
Where?
Bexar County is in Texas.
Bear
Is that out of
Bear
Houston?
County, San Antonio, Texas,
Is-
is Bear County.
Is it
That's where
Bear?
I just moved from.
Okay, so well,
Bear
every time they
County.
present it to me, they called it Bexar, but
It's
I
Bear-
believe you.
There you go, they don't know what to talk about,
That's-
but that's what I pronounce.
They probably call us Spokane, so I didn't
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that they're doing a really, really good job. The model that I proposed this year was based on that model. They created sort of a central homeless area that's outside of the city center. It's out on the edge of the county, outside of San Antonio, and they've centralized all of their services in that area. What's really nice is it's separated out from the city, but it also provides all the services that we're talking about. For me, that separation is kind of a key piece. That's something that I've been really proposing, is that, it's one thing to have the services, which I think we should have some. It's another thing to say, what happens to these people if they don't choose to take the services?
Yeah.
Traditionally, everybody's talked about jail. Well, jail's not exactly, they're not losing out when they go to jail for a week or two. And in fact, we're losing out if they get stabbed in jail or something happens to them in jail because they were in there. So that's not really a good solution, right? So for me, what I'd like to do is put that centralized location about 10 miles outside of the urban center, and then have no buses, no transport out there. So, hey, if you want to leave, go ahead and leave. It's a 10-mile walk back to the city. good luck. And once you get back there, we're going to pick you up and bring you right back. So I think a lot of folks will either, at some point, take advantage of the services that we have there for them, or they'll move on to another city.
How are we talking about shelters? What you're talking about?
Yes, it would be a combination shelter. It would have a shelter. It would have a camping area, because there are a lot of people who have RVs, for instance, or they have tents and they don't want to live in a shelter. Well, okay, you got to give them some space to camp. Fair enough. But again, right next to the services, not in the middle of the city, because that's what's causing us a lot of problems. We still have some unnecessary taxes. The license plate tax, that's killing us, $20. I tried several times to repeal that tax, unsuccessfully. Tax passed without a vote for the public. That's something I would never abide. We also have this excess stormwater tax, which it's really kind of a money laundering scheme. That's essentially the money that they use for this whatever direction spraying is that way, for this spraying project, through raising your stormwater taxes that used to be $16 a year to like $90 a year or something like that in one swoop. The Pines grade road grade separation. This to me is a real travesty. Okay, we passed all the money for this. So this is over on Pines and Trent. If you're not familiar, there's a railroad track there. That railroad track is dangerous for our citizens, not because people are going to get hit by the train, but because if a train is coming and you're on one side or the other and you need medical services, that's it, right?
Yep.
So the amount of traffic that flows through that area is huge. So I'm really glad that they went for this. And it's a hugely expensive project, about $50 million for this road grade separation. So we're going to build an underpass that goes under the train tracks so that we don't have that problem anymore. Great. All the money got passed. This year, all year long, the city manager has been patting himself on the back saying, we did it, we're going to build it. And he promised us 5 times, now 6, with last week's meeting, that the construction is going to start next week. Construction is going to start next week. Construction is going to start next week. Well, what he hasn't said is that they're having major problems with the railroads actually starting the construction, because we hired the railroad. Because I don't think that they managed the agreement very well from the beginning, right? Instead of signing a contract in the beginning saying, we're going to get this thing done, they did a handshake deal. And then the railroad said, hey, you know how we told you we were going to get this thing done? We've got other priorities. So, and then of course, scraps, still a fail.
Hey, Al?
Yeah.
Well, going back to the road separation thing, I had
Yeah.
heard something about on Sullivan,
Yeah.
an over and under thing that
That's
cost
different.
a huge amount of money.
That's coming.
Yes.
What's up with that?
That's coming.
Yeah, that's technically this year, so that's why I'm not covering it yet.
Okay.
That's 2025, but you bring up a good point, that there's a bridge that goes over Sullivan. This is Sullivan and Trent also. This bridge goes over the train tracks and it goes over Trent, okay? It's already constructed, it's already functional, all right? There's some problems with it. It's not high enough for modern loads, supposedly. It only goes over, is it 1 track or 2 tracks?
No, it goes over 2, and
But the
railroad
train-
wants 3.
The railroad wants
So
3, which
we're gonna do it with our taxes.
which we should make them pay for.
The railroad needs help.
I got a question though on
Yeah.
back to Pines. And I don't know, has the city council ever seen a written document from BNSF
No.
to City Spokane?
Well,
So
let
now
me
it's no
re-answer.
really-
From January of 2024 till December of 2024, no.
Okay.
If they saw something before then, I don't know, but I haven't seen it in any of the
Well, sure,
presentations or any of the documents.
Okay.
Yes,
Would you be upset with me if I had you go back?
absolutely not.
Because you skipped over a couple things. And,
Keep him in
please
shape.
forgive me being naive, but I just wanna understand.
Please,
I'm just one of those people.
that's what we're here for.
I read your stuff on Nextdoor all the
Yes, ma'am.
time, and I read that city council spent like $100,000 on lawyers and stuff
Yeah.
to take care of your insubordination.
So they say.
And but I don't understand what you did wrong, other
Yeah.
than you were posting. I think your heart's in the right place and you really care about the people. That's why you have so many people that like you. But, I don't understand where you were breaking the law and they had to go pay all these attorneys to be against you. Next next door is just an open forum, or were you doing it on their next door?
Let me put a pin in that, because I will cover that in just a minute, so let me put a pin in that. Was there something else on this slide that I didn't cover?
Yes, and the new officers for 2025.
Oh,
Can you go over that?
yeah, no new officer. So, this is kind of what I mentioned earlier, that we had originally committed to do 10 officers per year. 10 in 2024, 10 in 2025, 10 in 2026. Now,
And they call them waves.
that's right, they call them waves. Now, what the city council has been doing is massaging this message with people. Because in truth, the way this works, okay, is that we, the city, like, when the city council says we want 10 officers, that doesn't mean that they walk in the door. You know what I mean? Like, the door doesn't open, they say, we're here. And what happens is we say, we authorize you in our budget to hire these officers and pay them once they're hired. That process takes up to a year or longer. Yeah. Yeah, in fact, right now, we have, I think, 5 of those 10 officers who are gonna come on duty in March, and then the rest of them are gonna come on duty throughout this year. So the city council is saying, see, these are really 2025 officers. But that's not true. These are 2024 officers. We had to put the money in the account before we got the officers. For 2025, when they came out with the budget, I said, okay, we need to do the same thing, right? We're doing the budget right now. We need to do the same thing. Put another 10 officers in there so that there's not a gap in the hiring. Because again, every day that they're not hiring is a day that we're like, that year shifts forward, right? So the city council said, no, we're not going to do that. We'll figure it out along the way. And to me, I'm like, they said that we're going to do it through a budget amendment in 2025. And I'm like, that's not how look, folks, you guys all have rents or mortgages, or you guys have a budget for your home, right? Would you say, I'm not going to figure out how to pay my mortgage. I'm going to buy my PlayStation today, and I'll figure out how to pay my mortgage in a couple months. No, right? That's what we did. So I think that is a huge loss, and it's a battle that I'll be fighting this year. But, I guess I'm declaring success for last year because we got 10, but this is the new year, and I got to fight again. Okay, so I told you to put a pin in this, so we're coming right back to this. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about evaluating myself. You guys, has anybody ever been through an employee evaluation? Yeah, right? The way that it works is you get goals, and then the employee evaluates themselves, and then they turn to the manager, and you guys are my manager, right?